SOS was all it took, and the Deathworlder Armada was unleashed. Captain Scarlet Aurora stared at the star charts on her navigation console, while the merchant vessel Ironclad Dawn drifted through the void between systems. It had been 6 days since they left the mining station at Kepler. 442 carrying rare minerals and industrial equipment to the Outer Rim colonies. It was routine work, but it paid well, and someone had to keep the frontier supplied. Scarlet was 31 years old and had been running cargo ships for 14 years. She had long black hair, usually tied back in a practical bun, and a scar across her left cheek from a pirate raid. 3 years ago, her husband Marcus was back on Mars, waiting for her return from this 6-month supply run. She missed his terrible jokes and the way he made pancakes on Sunday mornings. But the outer colonies needed these supplies, and the pay would finally let them buy that small farm they had always dreamed of. Her crew was small but experienced. Alex Rodriguez handled navigation and communications. His steady hands had guided them through more asteroid fields than Scarlet could count. He was 28 and had joined her crew after his previous captain retired. He had dark hair and always wore his lucky baseball cap from Earth. Marcus Kim, no relation to her husband, worked in engineering. Keeping their aging ship running smoothly, he was 45 and knew every bolt and wire on the Ironclad Dawn, like it was his own body. Elena Vasquez was their security officer and cargo specialist. She made sure their valuable cargo stayed safe, and that anyone who tried to take it regretted the decision. She was tough as nails and had served in the Terran Defense Force before joining the Merchant Marine. The Ironclad Dawn was not the newest ship in the fleet. It was 35 years old and showed every year of hard service. The hull was patched in a dozen places from micrometeorite impacts. The artificial gravity sometimes flickered in Sector 7, and the food processor only had 3 working settings. But it was home to Scarlet and her crew, and it had never failed to complete a mission. Scarlet was reviewing their fuel consumption reports when the ship's communication array started chirping. Alex looked up from his console with a puzzled expression on his face. "Captain, I'm picking up something weird on the emergency frequencies," he said. "It's not coming from any human ship or station I've ever heard of." Scarlet set down her coffee mug and walked over to Alex's station. The screen showed wave patterns unlike anything in their database. The computer was working to decode whatever signal they were receiving. But the translation algorithms were struggling. "Marcus, Elena, get up here." Scarlet called over the ship's intercom. "We need to take a look at something." Marcus climbed up from the engine room, wiping hydraulic fluid off his hands with an oil-stained rag. Elena came from the cargo bay, where she had been checking the security seals on their most valuable shipment. They gathered around Alex's station to examine the strange transmission. "Computer, what can you tell us about this signal?" Scarlet asked. The ship's artificial intelligence responded in its usual calm, synthesized voice. "Signal appears to be a distress transmission from an unknown species. Translation is 67% complete and improving. Preparing to play audio." The speakers crackled with static. Then a voice came through it, sounded terrified and desperate. The words were alien, but the computer had managed to translate them into English. "This is researcher Keth Malari of the Peaceful Collective on the world we call Haven. Our system is under attack by the Void Hunters. They came from the dark spaces between stars with ships like black metal insects. They destroy everything they touch and take nothing in return. We have tried to flee, but their ships are faster. We have tried to hide, but their sensors find us. We are not fighters. We are scholars and artists and dreamers. Please, if anyone receives this message, we need help. Our libraries are burning. Our children are afraid the Void Hunters kill for the joy of killing. They want to erase us completely from existence. We do not have much time. Please help us, anyone, please." The message ended, and the bridge fell silent. Marcus was shaking his head in disbelief. Elena had her hand on her sidearm, even though there was nothing to shoot. Alex was staring at the screen with growing anger. "Computer, how far away is this transmission coming from?" Scarlet asked. "Signal originated from a star system approximately 5 days away at maximum hyperspace velocity," came the reply. Scarlet walked to the main view screen and looked out at the stars streaming past them in hyperspace. She thought about the voice they had just heard. Keth Malari sounded so hopeless, so certain that death was coming. Somewhere out there, people were being murdered not for resources or territory, but for the simple pleasure of destruction, and they were begging for help. "Captain," Alex said quietly, "what are we going to do?" Scarlet knew what the regulations said. Any contact with unknown alien species had to be reported to Terran Command immediately. They would file the proper paperwork, send the message up, the chain of command committees, would meet analysts, would study the signal, bureaucrats would argue about jurisdiction and protocols. By the time anyone actually did anything, it would be far too late. But Scarlet also knew that every minute they delayed, more innocent people might die. "Marcus, how are our engines running?" Scarlet asked. "Running smooth, Captain. We could change course if needed, but it would delay our delivery to the colonies by several weeks." "Elena, do we have enough weapons and supplies if we run into trouble?" "Yes, ma'am. We're carrying enough small arms to outfit a platoon, and our defensive systems are in good shape." "Alex, can you plot a course to that star system?" Alex's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "Course plotted, Captain. But sir, this isn't our mission. We're supposed to deliver these supplies to the mining colonies." Scarlet looked at each member of her crew. They were good people who had signed up to haul cargo, not to get involved in alien wars. She had no right to put them in danger. "I know this isn't what we signed up for," Scarlet said. "If we change course, we could lose our shipping contracts. We might face disciplinary action from the Merchant Marine Guild. We could even be arrested for interfering in alien affairs." She paused and met each of their eyes in turn. "But right now, somewhere out there, people are dying and asking for help. I can't ignore that. I won't ignore that." She took a deep breath. "But I won't make this decision for all of us. We vote everyone in favor of changing course to help these people. Raise your hand." Scarlet raised her hand first. Elena raised hers immediately after Marcus hesitated for just a moment, thinking about the risk. Then his hand went up. Alex was the last to vote, but when his hand went up, it was steady and determined. "It's decided then," Scarlet said. "Alex, change course for the Haven system. Marcus, give me everything those engines can handle. Elena, prepare our weapon systems, and everyone get ready. We don't know what we're flying into." The ironclad Dawn changed direction, leaving behind their safe cargo mission for the unknown dangers ahead. None of them knew that their decision would trigger the largest military mobilization in human history. 5 days later, the ironclad Dawn dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Haven system. What Scarlet and her crew saw made their blood freeze. The system was filled with massive alien warships that looked like giant mechanical spiders made of black metal and sharp angles. Scarlet counted at least 40 of them, each one larger than any human vessel she had ever seen. They surrounded a beautiful green and blue planet that must be Haven. "Dear God," Alex whispered as he stared at the main screen. "Those ships are enormous." The planet below was dying. Even from space, they could see the bright flashes of explosions as the alien ships fired some kind of weapon that turned entire continents into glass. The oceans were boiling away into steam, and the atmosphere was being stripped away by the bombardment. Smaller ships moved between the warships and the planet's surface. But they were not carrying cargo. They were hunting down any survivors trying to escape. "They're not conquering the planet," Elena said, her voice shaking with rage. "They're sterilizing it completely." Marcus was working frantically at the sensor station, trying to get more information about the alien ships. "Captain, these Void Hunter ships are using technology. I can't even understand their weapons. Don't just destroy matter, they seem to unmake at the atomic level. They're not just killing everything on that planet, they're erasing it from existence." Scarlet felt sick as she watched the systematic destruction of an entire world. The Void Hunters were not just conquerors, they were agents of extinction who killed for the pleasure of ending life itself. "Alex, can you get us closer without being detected?" Scarlet asked. "I can try. These old cargo ships don't show up well on scanners. If I keep us in the shadow of that gas giant, we might stay hidden." The ironclad Dawn moved carefully through the outer system, using a moon's gravity well to mask their approach as they got closer. The scale of the destruction became even more horrifying. Entire mountain ranges had been turned to glass. Seas had been boiled away, leaving cracked, empty basins where once there had been life. Suddenly, their communication system came alive with dozens of weak transmissions. The computer was picking up scattered signals from the planet's surface, Most were in the same alien language they had heard in the original distress call. "Computer, translate these signals," Scarlet ordered. The speakers, filled with voices all speaking in terror and despair. Families were calling out final messages to loved ones who would never hear them. Teachers were trying to comfort students as their schools dissolved around them. Scientists were documenting the end of their civilization even as death came for them. One voice came through clearer than the others. It was the same voice from the original message. "This is Keth Malari. I am hiding in the deep archives beneath the capital city. Most of my people are gone. The Void Hunters have turned our oceans to steam and our mountains to glass. I have 23 others with me, including 8 younglings. We sealed ourselves in, but the walls are growing hot. We will not survive much longer. Please, if anyone can hear this, remember that we existed. Remember that we tried to preserve knowledge and beauty in this universe. Please do not let them erase us completely." Scarlet made a decision that would change everything. "Alex, can you trace that signal?" "Working on it, Captain." "Got it. The signal is coming from the northern continent, about 150 kilometers from what used to be the largest city. Take us down carefully." The ironclad Dawn entered the planet's atmosphere, which was thick with ash and superheated gases. Through the toxic clouds, they could see the devastation below. What had once been a world of forests and cities was now a wasteland of glass and fire. They found Keth Malari's location in the ruins of what had been a great library complex. The buildings above ground had been melted, but the deep archives were still intact. Scarlet, Elena, and Marcus put on full environmental suits and left the ship. The surface was too hot and toxic for unprotected humans. They made their way carefully through the ruins, following the signal to a reinforced bunker deep underground. "Hello," Scarlet called out. "Keth Malari, this is Captain Scarlet Aurora. We received your message. We're here to help." A section of the bunker wall slid open and a figure emerged that Scarlet would never forget. Keth Malari looked like a cross between a human and a praying mantis, with elongated limbs covered in shimmering scales and large compound eyes that reflected intelligence and sadness. Behind him came 22 others, including several young ones, who stayed close to the adults. "You came," Keth Malari said, in accented but clear English. "You actually came. I thought we would die here, forgotten by the universe." Elena immediately began helping the injured, while Scarlet and Marcus talked with Keth Malari. He explained what had happened to his world. "The Void Hunters appeared 6 days ago," he said. "They did not demand surrender or resources. They simply began killing. They told us through our communication networks that they were the great ending, that all life must eventually be extinguished, and they had chosen to begin with us." "How many worlds had they done this to?" Marcus asked. Keth Malari's large eyes filled with what Scarlet recognized as tears. "We managed to intercept some of their communications before our satellites were destroyed. They have sterilized 23 worlds completely. No survivors. No trace that life ever existed there at all. Scarlet was recording everything on her personal device. Humanity needed to know what was happening out here." "What about their technology? Can you tell us anything about their weaknesses?" "They are very advanced, but they are also overconfident. They believe no species can threaten them because they have never encountered resistance. They could not simply overwhelm with superior firepower." Before Scarlet could ask more questions, alarms started ringing on their ship. Alex's voice came over their communicators. "Captain, we've been spotted. 4 Void Hunter ships are heading our way. We need to leave immediately." Scarlet looked at Keth Malari and the other survivors. "We can take all of you with us, but we need to move fast." "Thank you," Keth Malari said. "We are ready to leave this dead world behind." They rushed to get everyone aboard the ironclad Dawn. The Void Hunter ships were approaching, their weapons already charging to fire. Alex started the engines just as the first energy blast hit the ground where they had been standing. The ironclad Dawn lifted off and flew through the toxic atmosphere, using the ash clouds to hide from their pursuers. The Void Hunter ships followed, firing weapons that turned the air itself into plasma. But Alex was one of the best pilots in the merchant fleet. He flew their ship through the upper atmosphere like a fighter pilot, using the planet's magnetic field to disrupt the enemy sensors. Finally, they escaped into hyperspace, the Void Hunter ships following for a few minutes. before giving up the chase and returning to finish destroying the planet. Scarlet looked back at the dying world one last time, then made the most important decision of her life. Alex set course for Earth, maximum speed. "What about our cargo run?" Marcus asked. "The mining colonies will have to wait," Scarlet said. "This is bigger than our delivery schedule. This is bigger than all of us. Earth needs to know what's happening out here." As they jumped into hyperspace, Scarlet began composing her message to Terran Defense Command. She included everything they had recorded, all the evidence of Void Hunter brutality, Keth Malari's testimony about the 23 destroyed worlds. She ended the message with words that would echo through history: "Humanity is needed here." Admiral Jessica Torres was having breakfast with her daughter. When the priority alert came through, it was 6 in the morning at Terran Defense Headquarters on Luna, and Jessica had been looking forward to a rare morning off with her family, but when her communicator started flashing red with the highest priority code, she knew her day off was over. The message was from Captain Scarlet Aurora of the merchant vessel Ironclad Dawn. Jessica had never heard of Aurora, but any message with that priority level meant immediate attention. Jessica opened the file and watched Scarlet's recording. At first, she thought it might be some kind of elaborate hoax, aliens who killed for pleasure, an empire that erased entire worlds from existence. It sounded like something from a horror movie. But as she watched the footage of the burning planet and saw the desperate faces of the alien survivors on Scarlet's ship, Jessica realized this was real. The images of an entire world being turned to glass made her hands shake with fury. Jessica immediately called President Michael Harrison. It was still early morning, but this could not wait. The president answered on the first ring. "This better be important, Jess," he said. "Mr. President, you need to see something right now. I'm sending you a file. Watch it immediately, then call me back." 30 minutes later, President Harrison called back. His voice was completely different now, hard as steel and cold as space. "Get everyone to the Pentagon immediately. I want the Joint Chiefs, the Secretary of Defense, and the head of Terran Fleet Command. I want them there in 90 minutes. Jessica had never heard the president sound so angry. She started making calls, waking up the most important military leaders in the solar system. Within 2 hours, they were all sitting around the table in the Pentagon's most secure briefing room. General Patricia Williams, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, watched the recording 3 times before speaking. "How do we verify this is real? This seems almost too terrible to be true." Admiral Robert Kim, head of Terran Fleet Command, slammed his fist on the table. "Look at those people, Patricia. Look at the terror in their eyes. Look at what's left of their world. You think someone could fake that level of destruction?" Colonel Scarlet Martinez, Earth's top military strategist, was studying the technical data Marcus had managed to collect. The energy signatures are consistent with theoretical antimatter weapons, but scaled up beyond anything we've ever imagined. If this is real, we're dealing with technology that makes our most advanced warships look like toys. President Harrison stood up and walked to the window overlooking the Potomac River. Somewhere out in space, Scarlet Aurora and her crew were racing toward Earth with alien refugees, while billions of innocent people faced extinction at the hands of monsters. "How many worlds did they say were destroyed?" he asked quietly. 23 worlds, Mr. President," Jessica replied. 23 entire civilizations wiped out completely. The president turned back to face the room. "How many ships can we mobilize?" General Williams looked uncomfortable. "Mr. President, we're talking about going to war with an unknown alien force that has technology far beyond ours. We could be starting a fight that ends with Earth being turned into glass." Admiral Kim stood up. "We already know what happens when nobody fights them. They turn worlds into glass anyway. The question is whether we're going to let them continue until they reach Earth." Colonel Martinez pulled up star charts on the main screen. "Based on the trajectory data, the Void Hunter territory is approximately 4 weeks away at maximum fleet speed. If we mobilize everything we have, including reserves and the colonial defense forces, we could field about 450 ships. 450 ships against an enemy that destroyed 23 worlds." General Williams shook her head. "The odds are not in our favor." President Harrison walked back to the table and sat down. He looked at each person in the room, then spoke in a voice that brooked no argument. "Ladies and gentlemen, let me make something absolutely clear. I did not become president to watch genocide happen while we debate military odds. Those people out there are facing extinction, and we have the power to help them." He stood up again and pointed at the screen, which still showed images from the dying world. "Imagine if those were human cities being turned to glass. Imagine if those were our children calling for help, while aliens debated whether it was worth the risk to save them." The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking about their own families, their own children, their own worlds. "Every person in this room took an oath to defend innocent life," the president continued. "Well, innocent life is being destroyed right now, and we have the chance to stop it. I don't care if they're human or alien. I don't care if it's dangerous. We're going to help them." Admiral Kim smiled grimly. "What are your orders, Mr. President?" "I want every available warship ready to deploy within 48 hours. Every Marine, every soldier, every pilot who can fight. We're going to show these void hunters what happens when they threaten innocent people within range of a death world like Earth." Over the next 12 hours, Earth became a hive of frantic activity. Every military base in the solar system received mobilization orders. Ships that had been in maintenance were rushed back into service. Civilian vessels were requisitioned and converted into support craft weapons factories, switched to emergency production schedules. The UES Retribution, Earth's most powerful dreadnought, was chosen as the flagship. Captain David Park, a veteran of the asteroid belt conflicts, was given command of the entire fleet. He had fought pirates and raiders, but never anything like this. At military bases across Earth and the colonies, soldiers loaded equipment and said goodbye to their families. Many of them had never fought aliens before, but they were eager to defend people who needed their help. Colonel Martinez worked around the clock to develop tactics that could give humanity's fleet an advantage against superior technology. She focused on Earth's strengths, speed, mobility, and the savage determination that came from being born on a death world. Meanwhile, the ironclad Dawn was still racing toward Earth with the alien refugees. Scarlet had been sending regular updates on their condition. The surviving peaceful collective members were amazed by human kindness, especially Elena's protection of their younglings. Keth Malari spent hours talking with Scarlet about his people and their destroyed world. He could not believe that strangers from another world would risk everything just to help them. "Why are you doing this?" he asked her. "You do not know us. We have nothing to offer you in return." Scarlet thought about his question for a long time before answering. "Because it's the right thing to do, because when someone calls for help, you answer, because no one deserves to be erased from existence." By the end of 48 hours, 456 ships had gathered at the staging area near Jupiter. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Battleships, destroyers, carriers, and support vessels stretched across space like a steel constellation. President Harrison gave a speech to the nation explaining why Earth was going to war. "My fellow humans," he said, "today we learned that we are not alone in the universe. We also learned that evil exists among the stars. An alien force has destroyed 23 worlds, completely erasing billions of lives, not for conquest or resources, but for the simple pleasure of ending life." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "But they made one crucial mistake. They sent out a cry for help, and humans heard it today. Earth's children go to the stars not as conquerors, but as protectors. We go to show the galaxy that as long as Earth exists, no genocide will go unanswered." The fleet began moving toward Void Hunter territory the next morning. Scarlet Aurora's single distress call had awakened something in humanity that the galaxy had never seen before. The Void Hunters were about to learn why Earth was classified as a death world. 4 weeks later, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace. At the edge of Void Hunter space, Captain David Park stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, looking at the massive formation of Earth ships spread out around him. 456 vessels, the largest fleet in human history, all ready to fight for people they had never met. "Communications, open a channel to all ships," David ordered. "Channel open, sir." "This is Captain Park. To all vessels today. We fight not for territory or glory, but for the right of all life to exist. We fight for those who can no longer fight for themselves. Remember why we're here. Remember Scarlet Aurora and her crew, who risked everything to bring us this message. Let's show the galaxy what humans do when innocent people call for help." Their first target was the Void Hunter stronghold at Kepler 438, according to the intelligence they had gathered. This was where the Void Hunters kept their main fleet and their military command, Supreme Annihilator. Vex Nethys was contemplating the beauty of entropy when his subordinate rushed into his chambers. The young Void Hunter looked agitated. Supreme Annihilator, our perimeter sensors have detected a large fleet approaching, Kepler 438. They appear to be from the species that calls itself human. Vex Nethys made a sound that might have been laughter. Humans, those soft creatures from the small blue world. How many ships do they have? 3-5. Sir, our count shows over 450 vessels. The Supreme Annihilator stopped laughing. 450, that seems excessive. Our intelligence indicated they barely had a space presence at all. Sir, they are broadcasting a message. They are demanding our surrender. Vex Nethys rose from his meditation chamber, his multiple arms reaching for ceremonial weapons of annihilation. Surrender to a species we have never deigned to notice. Play their message. The communication came through in clear Void Hunter language, Captain Park's words translated by their computers. This is Captain David Park of the Human Defense Fleet. You have exactly 2 hours to surrender unconditionally and cease all hostile actions against civilian populations. If you refuse, we will stop you by force. This is your only warning. Vex Nethys hissed with contempt. Who do these humans think they are? We have erased 23 worlds we have never known defeat. Send a response, tell them that the Void Hunters bow to no one and that their world will be next to taste extinction. What about their fleet size? Sir, 450 ships is more than we have in this system. Numbers are irrelevant. When the enemy lacks the will to embrace true destruction, prepare all ships for battle. We will add these humans to our collection of extinct species. 2 hours later, the Void Hunter fleet moved to attack positions. Vex Nethys commanded 89 warships, each one larger and more heavily armed than the human vessels. He was confident that superior technology and firepower would prevail as they always had. All ships attack formation, he ordered. Show these humans the beauty of ending. The two fleets approached each other across the dark space around Kepler 438 on the UES Retribution. David Park watched the enemy ships getting closer. His crew was tense. They had never fought aliens before, and the Void Hunter ships looked like mechanical nightmares. Sir, they're moving to attack formation, reported his tactical officer. All ships implement Battle Plan Omega. Remember, hit them fast, hit them hard, and don't give them time to use their superior technology against us. The Void Hunters fired first massive antimatter beams, lanced across space designed to unmake matter at the molecular level. But the human ships scattered in all directions, their smaller size and superior maneuverability making them difficult targets. Then the humans fired back, and Vex Nethys got his first shock. The kinetic bombardment systems, originally designed to break apart asteroids that threatened Earth's shipping lanes, punched through Void Hunter armor like it was paper. Their antimatter weapons were powerful, but they were designed for destroying stationary targets, not for ship-to-ship combat against fast-moving opponents. Impossible, Vex Nethys whispered as he watched his flagship's sister ship break apart under human fire. How are they doing this? His tactical officer was panicking. Sir, their weapons are incredibly primitive, but they are using them in ways we never anticipated. They are not trying to unmake our ships, they are simply smashing them apart with raw kinetic force. Retreat to the Fortress Moon. We will make our stand there. But when the surviving Void Hunter ships reached their Fortress Moon, they found human ships already waiting for them. Colonel Martinez had planned the battle perfectly, using humanity's superior speed and numbers to surround the enemy. The second phase of the attack came from the human Marine Corps. Thousands of assault pods launched from the fleet. Like a metal storm, Captain Lisa Rodriguez led the assault on the main Void Hunter facility, where they kept their command center and thousands of prisoners from previous campaigns. The Void Hunters had never fought humans before. They expected them to be weak and cautious like most species they had encountered. Instead, they found themselves facing soldiers who moved like predators and fought with the desperate fury of beings who knew what it meant to fight for survival on a death world. Lisa Rodriguez kicked down the door to a prison complex and found hundreds of alien prisoners from dozens of different worlds. They were emaciated and terrified, but their eyes filled with hope when they saw the human soldiers. "You're safe now," Lisa told them through her translator. "We're here to take you home." The battle for Kepler 438 lasted 5 days. The Void Hunters fought desperately, but they had never faced an enemy that refused to accept defeat. Humans had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them. Fighting in space was actually easier than surviving on Earth. On the 5th day, Supreme Annihilator Vex Nethys was captured trying to escape in a stealth ship. He was brought before Captain Park on the bridge of the Retribution. The alien commander looked confused and defeated. "I do not understand," Vex Nethys said, through the translator. "We have the most advanced technology, the most powerful weapons. How did you defeat us so easily?" David Park looked at the alien who had overseen the destruction of 23 worlds. "You made a mistake. You thought technology was everything, but Earth taught us that survival isn't about having the best tools. It's about having the will to use whatever tools you have." He leaned forward and looked Vex Nethys in his multiple eyes. "You also made another mistake. You thought you could erase innocent people, and no one would care that call for help reached Earth, and humans never ignore people who need our help." While the main fleet was fighting at Kepler, 438 other human task forces were racing to every system where Void Hunter ships had been detected. The hunt for the genocidal aliens had begun. Scarlet Aurora and the Ironclad Dawn joined the rescue efforts. Scarlet had become a hero to the liberated prisoners, the captain who had first answered their call for help. Keth Malari worked with her to coordinate the search for any other survivors from the 23 destroyed worlds. "Your species is extraordinary," he told Scarlet, as they watched human ships distributing aid to refugee camps. "You could have decided our message was not your concern, but you came anyway." Scarlet smiled. "That's what humans do. When someone needs help, we help them." Colonel Martinez was coordinating the liberation of Void Hunter prison worlds when she received a message that made her heart race. More alien species were sending distress calls asking for Earth's help against other threats. Word was spreading across the galaxy that humans were the species to contact when you needed protection. The war with the Void Hunters lasted 3 months. What remained of their forces were scattered across the galaxy, no longer a unified threat of extinction, but broken remnants being hunted down by human task forces and their new alien allies. But the real victory was not the military conquest. It was the moment when former prisoners looked up at the sky and saw human ships bringing supplies and medical aid. It was the moment when children who had watched their worlds burn were given new homes. It was the moment when species that had been marked for extinction realized they would survive. The galaxy was learning that when humans heard a call for help, they did not send committees or negotiators, they sent protectors and liberators. 6 months after the last Void Hunter ship surrendered, Admiral Jessica Torres stood in the memorial garden that had been built on Luna to honor the 23 destroyed worlds. Each world was represented by a tree from Earth and a monument describing the civilization that had lived there. Representatives from every surviving species had come to witness the dedication. Beings with scales, tentacles, and crystalline bodies stood together in the garden, all grateful to be alive. Jessica looked out at the crowd and felt proud of what humanity had accomplished, but she also felt the weight of responsibility. This victory belonged to all the species who had suffered under Void Hunter terror, not just to Earth. "Admiral Torres," called a familiar voice. Jessica turned to see Scarlet Aurora walking up the path with Keth Malari beside her. The merchant captain was wearing a new uniform. Now she had been commissioned as a captain in the newly formed Galactic Defense Force. "Scarlet, Keth Malari, good to see you both," Jessica said. "How are the reconstruction efforts going?" Keth Malari's compound eyes sparkled with what Jessica had learned was the equivalent of tears of joy. "Better than we ever dared hope. Your people have helped us establish colonies on 12 worlds already. Our younglings are learning to sing again." "And the research project?" Jessica asked. "The Galactic Archives will open next year," Scarlet said with pride. "Keth Malari and his people are working with human scientists to preserve the knowledge of all the destroyed civilizations. They want to make sure no culture is ever truly lost again." Through the crowd, Jessica spotted other familiar faces. Colonel Martinez was talking with military leaders from 8 different species planning joint defense agreements. Captain Rodriguez was surrounded by former prisoners who wanted to thank the Marine who had freed them. Alex Rodriguez was there too, but he was no longer alone. He had brought a team of communications specialists from 4 different worlds. We're working together to build a galaxy-wide early warning system, he explained. If anyone sends out a distress call anywhere in the galaxy, the nearest defense forces will hear it within minutes. Marcus Kim had established an engineering school on Earth, where human mechanics learned to repair alien technology, while alien engineers taught humans about their advanced systems. He was training the first generation of truly universal technicians. Elena Vasquez had started a military academy that trained security forces from dozens of species. She was teaching them not just how to fight, but how to protect civilians and preserve peace. President Harrison walked up to the podium that had been set up in the center of the garden. The crowd grew quiet as he began to speak. His words were translated into dozens of languages. 6 months ago, we received a call for help from people we had never met, he began. Today, we stand here not as separate species, but as members of a galactic community united by our shared commitment to protecting innocent life. He paused and looked out at the diverse crowd. The Void Hunters believed that all life was meaningless, that existence itself was a mistake to be corrected. But they were wrong today. We have proven that when free people stand together, no force of destruction can defeat them. The crowd responded with cheers, whistles, songs, and harmonics. It was the sound of hope echoing across the galaxy. After the ceremony, Jessica walked through the garden, listening to conversations in languages she was still learning to understand. But emotions she recognized completely. Families were reuniting. Scientists were sharing discoveries. Children were playing together, despite coming from different worlds. She found Scarlet sitting on a bench watching Earth rise over the lunar horizon. How does it feel to be the most famous captain in human history? Jessica asked as she sat down. Scarlet laughed. Strange. I still can't believe that answering one distress call started all of this. Any decent person would have done the same thing. But you did it when it mattered most. Your decision to change course changed everything. Scarlet was quiet for a moment, thinking about the journey that had brought them here. You know what the best part is? It's not the fame or the medals. It's seeing Keth Malari's people rebuilding their culture. It's watching those kids from different worlds play together. It's knowing that somewhere out there families are safe because of what we did. Jessica nodded. The President wants to offer you command of the new Galactic Response Fleet, 200 ships dedicated to answering distress calls anywhere in the galaxy. I'm honored, but I think I'll stick with the Ironclad Dawn for now. She's still got good engines and a loyal crew, plus there are a lot of supply runs to make these refugee colonies need food, medicine, building materials, the cargo that really matters. The cargo that really matters, Jessica repeated with understanding. Meanwhile, on Earth, the revelation that humans were not alone had changed everything, but most people were proud of what their species had accomplished. Schools taught children about the galactic community. Scientists worked on projects that would have been impossible without alien knowledge. The news headlines that morning had read, Earth's protectors return home, but the articles focused not on military victories, but on the thousands of human volunteers who had stayed behind to help build new colonies for displaced populations. Dr. Maria Santos, who had left her job as a physician to establish hospitals on refugee worlds, was interviewed. These people lost everything but never lost hope, she said. Helping them rebuild is the least we can do. Back on Luna, the memorial garden had finished its ceremonies for the day, but the real work was just beginning. New distress calls were coming in from across the galaxy. Species that had been hiding from various threats were reaching out. Knowing that humans would answer, Scarlet found Jessica as she was preparing to leave. There is something I want to show you, Scarlet said, leading her to a new addition to the memorial garden. It was a simple monument showing a small cargo ship clearly meant to be the Ironclad Dawn. With its cargo bay doors open inside instead of supplies, there were figures representing all the species of the galaxy standing together in safety. At the base of the monument were words written in every language of the liberated worlds. The English translation read, "To the crew of the Ironclad Dawn, who proved that one voice calling for help can awaken an entire galaxy's conscience." Scarlet stared at the monument, feeling overwhelmed. This is too much. We were just doing our job. No, Jessica said firmly. You were doing much more than your job. You were being human, and now the whole galaxy knows what that means. As Scarlet prepared to return to her ship, she received a message on her communicator. It was another distress call, this time from a species called the Harmony Builders. In a distant nebula, they were being attacked by machines and needed help. Scarlet smiled and called her crew. Alex, Marcus, Elena, we've got another job. Looks like someone out there needs our help. Just like old times, Captain.